Welcome to the first ever episode of a very special installment of the Videostore Junkies podcast, Q Tips, or the weekend watch list, or whatever we end up calling it. If you're like us, you sometimes spend almost as much time cruising through streaming services looking for something to watch as you do actually watching movies. But now we've got you covered. I'm joined by Renee and Paul tonight, and between us, I think we have about half a dozen recommendations for you. For the weekend of February 26, 2021, here we go. I'm going to jump in with my first pick, which is for all those sci-fi schlock fans out there. It's a film that really wants to be a cross between Blade Runner and Predator, and while it doesn't come close to either, it still manages to have its own low-budget charm. Talking about 1992's Split Second, starring Rutger Hauer, Kim Cattrall, and Pete Postlethwaite. This one is set in the futuristic world of 2008, and Rutger Hauer is a no-nonsense cop who's addicted to three things: coffee, sugar, and hunting down the man who killed his former partner. This movie doesn't really know whether it wants to be a sci-fi serial killer thriller or a straight-up creature feature, but in the end, it doesn't really matter because you've got Howard chewing the scenery to pieces. You've got a shitty monster whose origins are too good to spoil here, and it's all topped off with some quality buddy cop antics for good measure. The plot doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but the script does have a quirky charm, which more than makes up for that. This one was actually directed by Tony Maylam, who directed one of my all-time favorite 80s slasher films, The Burning. And while this is nowhere near as good as that film, it's totally worth a look if you're in the mood for some early 90s cheese. And this one is currently streaming on Amazon Prime. So if you have a Prime subscription, go check it out for free. I'm going to throw it over to Renee. Renee, what is your first pick for tonight?
First pick for tonight is on Netflix. It is called The Endless. I don't have a beautiful script written up, but I can read you a summary. As kids, they escaped a UFO death cult. Now, two adult brothers seek answers after an old videotape surfaces and brings them back to where they began. Pretty good movie. I saw it not long ago. I thought it was very interesting. I liked it enough that I wanted to watch it again, which is always a good sign. Um, I liked it. Yeah, that's my recommendation.
So we're each doing two recommendations tonight, and literally originally we were thinking of doing like three. That was going to be my third one. So I
No!
will, yeah,
Ha!
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. That was going to be my recommendation for Netflix people. So yep,
See, and I told you somebody would pick the same episode or the same movie.
yep.
You didn't believe me. All right. Paul, it's your turn.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, actually, if you like The Endless, have you guys checked out Resolution? It's by the same filmmakers, and it's from 2012, and characters from Resolution show up in Endless. So they're not necessarily it's not necessarily a sequel, but they're tied together. And I'm not sure. I was just checking the look, see, and it's streaming on Amazon Prime, Crackle, Tubi, um, and couple character and actually some characters from it, like, so it's tied together. It's by the same guys. This wasn't my recommendation, but I'm just throwing it in anyway. What basically one guy is, I can't remember if it's meth or he's hooked on something, and his other friend basically says, "Well, I'm going to just pretty much chain you up in this in this shack, and we're going to stay here till you're clean." And shit happens, is all I'm going to say, and it's really really good, and it's a good pair, like, pairing a fine wine and cheese. It's a good pair with Endless, and you don't necessarily have to see it first, but if you do, it's kind of cool because, like I said, there's some ties between the two of them. So
And speaking of meth, am I the only person who thinks that Crackle sounds like a brand of bath salts? No.
it,
Okay.
it it's a candy bar.
Okay.
That's where my mind's go. So I've got my recommendations are actually, they're connected, but I can do them both, or we can circle around to my second one if you want. That's no problem. But tonight it's all about the Dick,
Oh
and
boy.
not Dick Miller, but Dick Maas, who is a Dutch filmmaker, and he's still working today. He was working in the '80s, and he's still putting out stuff today. But we're gonna throw you back to the '80s for these. The first one is The Lift in the Netherlands. It'd be known as De Lift, and it's from 1983. And it's currently streaming on Tubi. And Hub Staple plays Felix, who's I guess not really heroic, but he's sort of our hero, elevator repairman, and it's about a killer elevator. And it doesn't take itself terribly seriously. I mean, the tagline is take the stairs, for God's sakes, take the stairs. and it's actually really fun. The amount of ways they can kill somebody with an elevator, and I have a love for this film. And just like is it Michael Hanke? I can never pronounce his name. Who made Funny Games with an American version. Dick Moss did the same in 2001. He remade The Lift as The Shaft, or also known as
Oh
Down, and
boy.
with Naomi
Oh.
Watts. And it
Wait,
wasn't really yeah.
Naomi Watts?
Yeah, Naomi Watts was in it.
How have I not heard of that?
And it wasn't, well, because it was gonna get a theatrical release, but then this thing called 9/11 happened, and they thought,
Oh yeah.
Mm.
yeah, probably not that good. But what's funny is one of the trivias for The Shaft says, is aptly named because none of the actors got residuals from it. So they're getting The Shaft. But anyway, The Lift is really fun, and like I said, it's probably one of the best killer elevator movies you'll see, and it's a good introduction to Dick Moss. And on to you, Zach, and we'll save my second Dick Moss pick for my second dick pick. See
Oh
what I did
Oh
there?
God.
no.
All right,
For
let's move along before we lose any more listeners. um, so
So Zach,
I'm actually gonna break the mold with my second recommendation. Already our first episode, I'm already breaking the rules. Because this recommendation isn't actually a movie, but it's a TV show. And this is streaming for what I think might be the first time ever now on Hulu. I'm going to recommend one of my favorite 90s shows, Freaks and Geeks. I
Mm.
wasn't sure how it would hold up since I watched it when I was actually the same age as the characters when it first aired, but I think it's aged incredibly well in the last 20 years. And I've been going back through it, and it's been a lot of fun to revisit. This show actually helped to launch a lot of careers in front of the camera and behind. So Judd Apatow and Paul Feig produced this. They wrote and directed several episodes. Obviously, if Judd Apatow would go on to direct films like 40-Year-Old Virgin, but it also has a cast that's just phenomenal. The cast includes a young Francis Daly, Linda Cardellini, Busy Phillips, Sam Levine, Martin Starr, Seth Rogen, James Franco, and Jason Segel, as well as a not so young Joe Flaherty and Becky Ann Baker as the parents. And it also has a lot of great bit parts. It actually features some early roles by Ben Foster and Lizzie Kaplan as well. So it's a great cast. It's so fun. It was pretty groundbreaking when it first aired, and it had a pretty frank portrayal of high school life for kids that weren't in the in crowd. And it hasn't lost much of its bite. The stories are still funny. The subject matter is still realistic, and the performances are still incredible. You can see how this cast all went on to become successful in film and TV. The pilot is a little rough, but once the series hits its stride, it's still one of the best hour-long comedies of the last generation. And fun fact for those of you who do remember the show from when it first aired, I realized as I was rewatching it that it's actually now been longer between when it first premiered and today than from when the show premiered and when it was set. So if you needed something else to make you feel old today, there you go. Renee, over to you.
Oh boy. I feel wholly unprepared because I don't have these kinds of things written up for these movies. Uh, so I'm glad you actually did that because I have a series that I've picked out, but I'm going to save that for the next one since you have done a series. So I'm going to jump to uh, a movie that you guys can watch on Tubi. And that's shout out to Tubi. This is a not yet paid advertisement.
This podcast is brought to you by Tubi.com.
Yes, we love Tubi.
Hopefully. Send us money, please, Tubi.
Yes, Tubi. It's great. If you're not watching Tubi, you really should be watching Tubi. They have so much stuff. It's great. Anyway, um, it is Housebound. It is a movie from New Zealand, comedy, little comedy, horror, mystery, action happening. A woman is on house arrest and she gets sent home. I guess a young woman is sent home to live with her family. And things just get a little creepy, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. Is the house haunted? Is, just what is happening? And it's a fun movie. I really enjoyed it. I love a foreign film, and yeah, it's great. And it is from New Zealand, so it's English, so there's no subtitles for people that are averse to subtitles. And how about you, Paul? What's
oh,
your next pick?
oh, I'm going to chime in with Housebound because it is pretty fantastic, and it's a great film. It's good one to go in with just what Renee told you. Don't look up anything else about it. It's pretty great. So my other dick pick is a film that, again, this is another one that I love even more than The Lift, and I can't really explain why, sort of, but it's Amsterdam from 1988, and it is a police thriller slasher, and it's showing on Tubi, but also on Shudder and AMC Plus. So if you want to skip the commercials and you have Shudder or AMC Plus, you can watch it there. In this one, his Dick Moss's because he's the writer director of both these. One of his favorite leading men, Staple, I'm sure mispronounced as well, shows up again. This time he's a police detective in Amsterdam, where a scuba-clad serial killer serial killing in the canals of Amsterdam. It's one of the opening. After the opening kill, the body revealed. This is, I mean, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but this is what endeared me to the film. It's a the prostitute's bloody body is hanging off of a bridge in Amsterdam, and a canal boat full of tourists, full of Boy Scouts, goes underneath, and it drags along the top and drops in, and it's just wonderful. It again, like The Lift, it actually has a bit of sense of humor, because that's actually, believe it or not, bloody dead prostitute played for laughs, and it's got some great action sequences, some speedboat chases. And it's actually one of the speedboat chase on. It's based on a speedboat chase from, I guess, Puppet on a Chain from 1971. And during the speedboat chase, there was a wreck, and Staple was injured to the point where they had to shut down production for like 3 weeks. But it's a pretty great film. And Dick Moss actually passed up directing a sequel to Nightmare on Elm Street in order to direct this. And
Which one?
I'm not sure,
Huh.
but that's all it said.
It's interesting.
And but
I
the
see.
thing,
You probably look at the release year and figure it out.
yeah, but I was too lazy to do that. But
Fair enough.
one of the other great things about this movie is the theme song by Lois Lane, though it's Lois with like an umlaut over the I, and it's a duet actually called Lois Lane, and it's Amsterdammed, and I'll serenade you with just a slight little snippet of
Oh
it.
boy.
Amsterdam, Amsterdam. This town is Amsterdam, Amsterdam. It's got this really great 70s vibe that I'm not getting through on this, but I
No,
recommend.
I think you got it through just perfectly.
Oh, I love this movie. I can't fully explain why. It's a great little action flick. It's got a great sense of humor, and it's got a dead prostitute hanging from a bridge, and surprising a bunch of Boy Scouts. So what more can you not love? So Dick Moss is great. He's still producing films. One of his latest films from a couple years ago is either called Prey. It depends on where you see it, Prey or Uncaged, and I think that's on Shudder as well. I haven't seen it yet, but it's about a man-eating lion loose in Amsterdam. So, yeah, pretty great stuff.
I think I just watched that.
Did you? Was it good? Or am I lying?
I don't remember. Sorry.
You
That's
don't
why I
want to
can't remember
say.
if I watched it or not.
It obviously wasn't that didn't make that much of an impression if you did.
Gee.
Well, I just watched that other movie with the killer tiger.
Oh yeah.
Oh, which Burning Bright? Or
Maneater, don't you remember?
oh, have you watched Burning Bright?
No, I have not. Burning Bright,
Oh,
no.
another film that I love. So,
well, I think that's it for us. Does
Wait,
anyone else?
wait.
Oh, go ahead.
I want to throw one in.
Yeah.
Haven't watched it in a while, and it's playing on Stingray Quello, whatever the hell that is.
Why are you making things up, Paul?
I'm not.
Stop it.
It's got as a 7-day free trial. You can watch it on Amazon, Stingray Quello. But I think it needs to be mentioned today because it's Interstellar 5555, the story of the secret star system, and stars Daft Punk.
Yeah,
So
good call.
yeah, it's based actually on their landmark album Discovery, and there's no dialogue in it. It's basically like an anime, because it was produced by Toho, and sorry, Toei. Toho's the other one.
Yeah,
Toei.
Godzilla.
Yeah, Godzilla, but it's Toei Animation, and it's really great, especially if you're a Daft Punk fan. You can drown your sorrows by watching that.
Yeah. Or if you're not a Daft Punk fan, or if you've never heard Daft Punk, you can watch it and then become a Daft Punk fan and then be really sad.
Oh yeah, because it's pretty great. I mean, it's no Amsterdam, but what it is.
Mhm.
What is? Cool. Well, unless anyone else has anything else, I think that wraps it up. I do have one final recommendation. You've heard of HBO Max. Well, how about some HBO Mad Max? Beyond Thunderdome, that is, but
Oh.
now streaming on HBO Max. And if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't watched it recently, you should probably go watch it right now, because next week we have a very in-depth look at this on our main feed, and it becomes quite contentious. There was shouting, there was crying. Paul made me cry, and he hurt my feelings a lot. So look forward to that. It's a great episode. We hope that at least a few of these picks were helpful to you. And if they were, visit videostorejunkies.com and drop us an email, or hit us up on Twitter at VideoJunkiesPod. And we'll be back next week with more recommendations. In fact, right before we started recording, I actually thought of something. If you liked any of these recommendations, or if you like the films we talk about, hit us up, drop us a line, send us 5 movies that you love, and we will actually give you personalized picks. So there you go. It's a service that you can't get on any other podcast. Paul, do you want to sing us out?
Sure. Amsterdam, Amsterdam. This is Amsterdam, Amsterdam, Amsterdam.
And just to recap, in case you weren't keeping track, today Renee recommended The Endless, which is streaming on Netflix, and Housebound, which is streaming on Hoopla and Tubi. I recommended Split Second, which is streaming on Amazon Prime, and the series Freaks and Geeks, which is streaming on Hulu. And finally, Paul recommended the Dick Moss double feature of The Lift and Amsterdam, which are both playing on Tubi. And he also recommended Interstellar 5555, the story of the secret star system, which he says is playing on something called Stingray Quello, but I think he just made that up.